Hello, and welcome to Life Diaries, a space where the pages of life open up, one story at a time. These are tales written by experience, spoken from the heart. Take a moment for yourself, and let's begin. Catherine's frozen gaze slid over the intricate curves of the wallpaper pattern. The wall clock ticked off the seconds with a measured chime, echoing the relentlessly rushing stream of life. A life that cared nothing for the opinions of insignificant pawns, like 40-year-old housewife Catherine Miller. Life hummed with the roar of cars on the highway, rustled in the lush crowns of trees, shouted with the ringing voices of children in the yard, howled mournfully with the neighbor's dog, and clattered dishes in the kitchen of the residence from apartment 104. But inside Catherine, a silent emptiness reigned. No thoughts, no feelings. It seemed as though even the blood in her veins had stopped. "Mom, are you okay?" came her daughter Valerie's voice. "Oh!" Catherine flinched as if from a blow. "Sweetie, you're home already? I didn't even hear you come in." "Yes, just got here. Were you at the hospital?" Valerie's voice trembled. "Yes." "So, what did they say?" The girl grew anxious. Dr. Michael O'Connell said there's nothing left to hope for. The metastases have started growing aggressively. It's unlikely Dad will regain consciousness, unless it's from unbearable pain. "I don't know, sweetie, what we're going to do now." Dr. Michael O'Connell hinted gently today that it's time to think about turning off the life support machines. So, it turns out, there are absolutely no chances? Tears welled up in Valerie's eyes. "But that can't be, Mom. Medicine has advanced so much now, people are literally pulled back from the brink of death." "Valerie." Catherine pulled her daughter close. "The doctors say we shouldn't expect miracles. When Dad is disconnected, he might wake up, but I'm so afraid he'll be in that terrible pain, and no one knows how long he can endure it. The painkillers hardly help anymore, even the strongest ones." "Mom, tell me, why did this happen?" Valerie sobbed. "Why Dad specifically? He was always so healthy. He played sports. He didn't even smoke. It can't be that cancer attacks so suddenly and wipes a person off the face of the earth in a couple of months. And anyway, everywhere they write that cancer is successfully treated now. Why is everything different for us?" "I don't know, my dearest. I never thought I'd have to go through something like this. When Victor first went to the doctors, everything didn't look so bad, and the prognoses were the most encouraging. And then everything started developing so rapidly, no one expected it. And the therapy? Organ after organ started failing. I can't explain anything to you because even the doctors are at a loss. They did everything they could, and Dad was so determined to fight. It's as if someone cursed us." "You can't say that." Valerie became alert. "Do you really believe that?" "I don't know what to believe anymore. I even thought about going to a psychic. Mom keeps trying to convince me. She found some man, says he can help. And I'll tell you a secret. I've already arranged to meet him." "Are you serious, Mom? I understand you're desperate, but I think it's all pure fraud." "Sweetie, I'm ready to grasp at any straw." "Don't even think about going to him. He'll just take all your money. You're smart. You know they prey on people's grief and gullibility." "I'll just go, sweetie. If I see he's trying to scam money, I'll just turn around and leave." "But Grandma has completely lost her mind. It's forgivable for her, she believes in all sorts of nonsense. But you're an engineer. You have a higher technical education. How can you even consider such a thing?" "We don't know a lot about life, Valerie. For example, you're only 11, but you reason like an adult. Why is that?" "You and Dad should be thanked for teaching me everything since childhood. And kids grow up fast these days anyway. There's no mysticism here. But charlatans? That's foolish and dangerous. It would be better to look for more doctors. Maybe ours just weren't very good. Valerie looked at her seriously. Sweetie, Victor is in the best oncology clinic. World-class specialists work here. It's unlikely there's anyone more competent. Now that's a sensible thought. I don't understand if you realize that. How did you even give in to Grandma's persuasion and decide to go to some sorcerer? Okay, let's change the subject. It's unbearable for me to discuss this. All right, but promise me you won't pay this man. I promise, her mother smiled weakly. Listen, I haven't cooked anything today. Maybe we should order something? Mom, money is really tight right now. Let me cook something myself. Valerie smiled. You go rest. Yes, you're my good girl. Catherine hugged her daughter tightly. Just don't overdo it. I don't have much of an appetite. By the way, there were dumplings in the freezer. We could boil those. Dumplings will ruin our stomachs. We just ate them yesterday. What? Perfectly healthy food. Dough and meat. That's when you make them yourself, Valerie argued. With store-bought ones, you don't even know what's mixed in. No way, I'll cook something proper. I'll fry some potatoes at least. There's still chicken. Okay, sweetie. All right, I'll go lie down for a bit. Catherine sank onto the sofa. She felt ashamed that her daughter had to fuss in the kitchen, but at the same time, she was happy that the girl was growing up so independent and sensitive. Early that morning, Catherine, without a word to her daughter, set off to meet the psychic. She had told work she would be late, lying that she needed to go to the hospital to see her husband. Everyone at work genuinely sympathized with her. Catherine was already universally liked, and it was hard for her colleagues to see her grief. Contrary to her expectations, the sorcerer didn't live in some abandoned house, but in a perfectly ordinary standard apartment in a residential area. Catherine dialed the number on the intercom, and almost immediately came the inviting beep to enter. She took the elevator up to the 8th floor. A man of indeterminate age, dressed in a coffee-colored tracksuit, was already waiting for her on the landing. He looked quite attractive and didn't at all fit Catherine's idea of wizards in long black cloaks. Hello, Catherine, the man smiled pleasantly. My name is Ignatius. Nice to meet you. Please, come in. He stepped aside, letting Catherine into the apartment. The room was spacious and bright. There were no bunches of herbs hanging anywhere, no jars with chicken feet. Just an ordinary city apartment, quite modern and cozy. I see your surprise, Ignatius smiled. Were you expecting to see the dwelling of a medieval alchemist? To be honest, yes, Catherine smiled sheepishly. I'll say right away, I'm skeptical. I'm a civil engineer. I don't believe much in all this. And you don't need to believe in anything here. To each their own. Higher powers have gifted me with one ability, to see what is inaccessible to many. They have gifted you with the talent to design buildings and structures, which is completely beyond me. Logical? So you won't be looking into a crystal ball? God forbid, my dear. Only charlatans practice that. I work with energy, not sorcery. You believe in energy, don't you? In energy? Catherine frowned. Well, yes. Electromagnetism, kinetic and potential. Of course, the laws of physics are known to everyone since school. Exactly. But modern physics has explored only a tiny fraction of what exists in the universe, and energy is not limited to just the known types. For example, what, in your opinion, is a soul? A soul? Catherine pondered. Well, they say it's what makes us human. They say correctly. But what do you yourself think? I'm not talking about religion now. A soul is a kind of driving force hidden within us, Catherine began. Ah, I see what you're getting at. So a soul is also energy? How else? We can't see it, but we feel it, like any other energy. and our thoughts are nothing but energy. Yes, the human body is subject to the laws of physics, chemistry, and biology, but at the heart of it all is energy. Have you heard of the aura, the human energy shell? Everyone has it. Enough research has been conducted that not only records the presence of a biofield, but can also control it. There are simply people, myself included, who are able to manage this. I've been practicing for over 30 years. Once, I was just as fervent a skeptic as you, believed in nothing but physics. I worked at a nuclear power plant, by the way. And after 40, an event happened that forever turned my world upside down. Forgive my immodesty, Catherine interrupted. How old are you? 75, Ignatius smiled. That's impossible, the woman gasped. You look about 40. Yes, I know. It just so happened that I became fixed in this form when it all happened. I was 43. When we had an accident at the reactor, there was virtually no chance of fixing anything. No one wanted a repeat of Chernobyl. Time compressed. Everything happened in a couple of seconds. And suddenly I did something that I still can't quite explain, and certainly couldn't then. What was it? Catherine froze. I thought, or rather, I first imagined the explosion. What would happen next? The full scale of the disaster. It was like a movie playing before my eyes. And then I rewound everything and managed to go back to the moment when the mistake was made that could have caused all this. An inexperienced shift supervisor was working then. We were on the night shift. He fell asleep and missed the moment the reactor started overheating. And so it happened that I rewound everything, found myself back in the moment when this guy had just closed his eyes. I don't know how quickly I figured it out, but I realized that the future depended on me right then. I ran to the control room, and the young man had just dozed off. I looked at the instruments. The readings were going up, but I shook him awake. We reacted quickly, called the necessary people, and prevented everything successfully. So you mean to say you traveled through time? No, unfortunately that's beyond anyone's power. Something else happened. It was as if I fell into a prolonged déjà vu. I foresaw all subsequent events. And it happened the moment I fell asleep. It was a tense day. I broke my instructions, I confess. And if I had stayed asleep then, the catastrophe would have erupted. More precisely, I fell asleep, but it was precisely at that moment that I had a vision, thanks to which I was able to save everyone. I understand it sounds improbable, especially since you won't find information about this incident anywhere, because in fact, nothing happened. But since then, I began to greedily absorb information that could somehow explain my suddenly discovered abilities. After that incident, strange things began to happen. I started seeing many things ahead of time, and not just in dreams. It was like sudden shifts in consciousness. I was afraid. I didn't know what to do with it. And later, I found a person who explained everything to me. There's no point in burdening you with details anyway. You wouldn't believe it. But from that moment on, I decided to dedicate my life to this. I lived in India for a long time, mastering energy practices. My background in physics initially hindered me, but then I started connecting what I knew with what I was yet to learn. And now I can look into both the future and the past. Don't think of me as a wizard. There's a lot I can't influence. But thanks to my gift, I can help people. The most important thing I understood is that our universe is completely subject to the laws of energy. And if someone manages to tune into the right frequency, a lot opens up. I don't consider myself omniscient. I'm like a transmitter. I just pick up signals from the information field and broadcast them. Let's say I believe you. Catherine frowned skeptically. Although it's still beyond my comprehension. My mother recommended you to me. I'm in a very difficult situation. I literally don't know what to do or what to expect. Tell me, don't be afraid. It will stay between us. And if I can help in any way, I will certainly do so. Only... Catherine became embarrassed. Money. Ignatius smiled sadly and nodded questioningly. My daughter let me come to you on the condition that I wouldn't pay anything. You understand? There are many fraudsters, and they all try to get into your pocket. We are in a very difficult situation right now, and… Catherine. Ignatius placed his hand on her shoulder, and the woman immediately felt a sense of relief. I don't charge for my services. Any compensation is solely your decision. I believe the gift given to me belongs to everyone. If I charged a fee, I would be living in some luxurious mansion now, not in this standard 2-room apartment. Yes, perhaps it's unreasonable, but I made that decision once and I'm not going to change it. But how do you live then? On what? I write term papers for students, Ignatius laughed. You won't believe it, but the income from that is quite decent, and I have to justify my education somehow. Well, Catherine drew out. Okay, let's try. In short, 6 months ago, my husband Victor suddenly felt unwell. Everything happened very abruptly. I was at home, he just lost consciousness, felt dizzy. Victor is young, always had excellent health. Imagine how scared I was then. I called an ambulance, my husband didn't regain consciousness, they took him to the hospital. And there, liver cancer. And Victor doesn't drink, nothing like that at all. And in the early stages, this disease is practically undetectable. Everything was going so well, the doctors immediately took him on. The tests were promising. They promised us that it's successfully treated now. For almost half a year, everything was improving. But suddenly, Victor got much worse. He was urgently hospitalized. After the examination, the metastases started growing aggressively. All nearby organs were affected. Neither chemotherapy nor radiation helped. Now, Victor is almost never conscious. They are pumping him with huge amounts of painkillers. They put him in an induced coma. He's connected to a ventilator, to some other devices. I don't understand anything anymore. I only see my beloved husband. But I can't. I just can't see this. We have a daughter, Valerie. She loves her father dearly. It's much harder for her than for me. I just can't imagine what will happen if Victor is gone. So, as I understand it, official medicine cannot explain the reasons for such rapid progression of the disease. Ignatius frowned. Show me a photo of your husband. Catherine opened a photo on her phone and handed it to Ignatius. He looked at the picture for a long time, then closed his eyes and sat in silence for several minutes. Catherine didn't dare interrupt him. It was clear that the man had entered a kind of trance. Finally, he opened his eyes and exhaled loudly. Only then did Catherine realize that he hadn't been breathing all this time, and no less than 10 minutes had passed. Well? She asked impatiently. I'll tell you straight, as it is. There's no hope of saving Victor. But, Catherine repeated. There's nothing more to be done here. The thing is, your husband was subjected to external influence. That's what caused the illness. When he was already recovering, the influence was repeated, and much stronger. And that's when the disease began to progress rapidly. What do you mean? Catherine's eyes widened. What influence? Some kind of hex or what? A curse? Many call it that, but I prefer to call it an influence. But who? Who could have done this? Victor had good relationships with everyone. He had no enemies. I will describe this person to you. Ignatius nodded. More precisely, 2 people. The first is a woman around 40, ash blonde, quite full-bodied and short. Long nails with bright manicure, many rings, always wearing glasses. This woman is obsessed with money, has already gone through a divorce because of it, but hasn't calmed down. She is in Victor's closest circle and exerted physical influence. The harm was inflicted through liquid. The second person is a rather young man, brown-haired, thin, slightly stooped. He has a scar on his face near his lip. Very pliable and easily led under this woman's influence. Also close to Victor. He practices some rituals. He has powerful energy, but it's completely negative. Roughly speaking, the woman is using him to destroy Victor. And the worst thing is, it's most likely someone from the family. Yes. Catherine turned pale. You're describing Victor's older sister, Alana, and his stepbrother, Vladislav. My God, how did you see that? Is it true? But why? Why would they torment their own brother? What selfish interest could they have? Victor always helped them with money anyway, especially after Alana's divorce. She was left with nothing then. Her husband sued for the property. Alana seems nice, but she can't treat Victor like that. He essentially supported her. And Vlad? He always adored Victor. Vlad is under Alana's influence. It's as if she is zombifying him. I see that there's like a film over his mind. That is, he completely doesn't understand the purpose of what he's doing. If you had come to me earlier, this influence could have been removed. But now... Maybe we can still try? Catherine whispered. For some reason, she believed Ignatius. I can perform a cleansing, but it will only ease Victor's suffering and give him a maximum of a few weeks. The influence is very strong, and already at a stage where it's impossible to get rid of it completely. It's one thing when only the soul, the energy, is affected, another when the body is almost destroyed. I agree to everything. I want Victor to at least regain consciousness and suffer less. I can't let him go like this without saying goodbye. All right, Ignatius nodded. I will do everything possible, but be prepared for the worst. No matter what, I don't see a favorable outcome. What will you need from me? I need direct contact with your husband. Can that be arranged? Yes, you can go to the hospital to see him today. I'll introduce you as a relative. He's alone in the room. No one will disturb you during the visit. We can go right now. I don't want to waste time. We have very little of it. Yes, of course. I'll change now then. Ignatius left the room, leaving Catherine alone with her thoughts. It was hard to comprehend that all this could be true. Why? The woman fumed to herself. Victor did everything for them. What good would his death do them? I always suspected Alana was dishonest, but not like this. And they smile sweetly. They're not ashamed to ask for help. Are these people? Family? After our parents died, Victor fussed over Vlad like a prized possession, paid for his university. Their stepmother didn't really let the sons see each other. And as soon as things started falling apart for her, she came running. I don't understand, God. Why didn't Mom tell me to come to this man sooner? Although, who am I kidding? I would have laughed at her. Lord, give me strength. All right, I'm ready. Ignatius returned to the room. He had changed into a summer suit and looked very presentable. Will the doctors not take me for a sorcerer? Or worse, they might send us both to the hospital. No, not at all, Catherine replied. Don't worry. When I visit Victor, no one comes into the room. They don't disturb us. Excellent, the psychic nodded. Then let's go. The bright July sun streamed through the half-closed blinds. Catherine looked at her husband, entangled in tubes and IVs, and shuddered. The man she had lived with for so many years. Instead of a face full of life, she saw something pale gray, with huge dark circles under his closed eyelids. Victor had lost a lot of weight, his cheekbones tightly covered by thin, almost transparent skin. Catherine carefully took his hand. His fingers were dry and cool, as if there was no life left in them at all. Ignatius stood modestly by the entrance, not daring to interrupt the moment of the couple's visit. In his hands, he held a small leather bag. Ignatius, come here, Catherine called him. The man obediently sat on a chair. Here. And Victor has been in this state for almost a month. May I? The psychic looked at her questioningly. Catherine nodded. Ignatius gently took Victor's hand. For a couple of minutes, he sat with his eyes closed, then suddenly stood up and reached for his bag. After rummaging through it a bit, he took out a small baggie of salt and a black candle. All right. I'll ask you to step out now, Catherine. No one should be present. If anyone tries to enter the room within 15 minutes, distract them. Now I will use this heated salt and candle to take a sample of Victor's energy. I will charge it. I will do the main work at home, but without personal contact, I wouldn't be able to. Understood. The woman nodded and slipped out the door. Catherine sat on a small sofa in the corridor. No staff were visible. The minutes dragged on unbearably. Suddenly, a nurse darted out from around the corner, heading towards Victor's room. Catherine became anxious. "Oh, you can't go in there," she squeaked, blocking the nurse's path. "Why not all of a sudden?" The woman was taken aback, fiddling with an IV bag in her hands. "I need to give your husband his medicine. It's time." "You see?" Catherine stammered. "He has, well, his uncle from Vladivostok came especially by train. Can you imagine? He hasn't seen Victor in 10 years, and he came to say goodbye. Even I stepped out, left them alone. I don't want to disturb them. His uncle is very worried. They used to be close. And it's only for about 10 minutes. Okay, he'll be out soon." 10 minutes? The nurse looked at her watch. "All right, just don't tell Dr. Michael O'Connell, or he'll scold me. We still have a little time to spare. Let your uncle be with his nephew in peace. But I'll be back in exactly 10 minutes, okay?" Okay, Catherine nodded. When the nurse entered the neighboring room, the woman exhaled. The last thing she needed was for the medical staff to see that in her desperation, the wife was bringing all sorts of sorcerers into the hospital. Ignatius peeked out of the room. "Catherine, I'm finished. I'll continue at home." "Thank you," Catherine smiled weakly. At that moment, the nurse reappeared. "Well, did the uncle talk to his relative?" She winked. "Now let me take care of him." Ignatius and Catherine left the hospital. They said goodbye, and the woman went to work. The rest of the day passed in gloomy reflection. Work didn't go well, and her boss delicately sent her home. On Saturday afternoon, Catherine flinched at the sound of the phone ringing. The sound was so insistent and alarming that the woman immediately felt anxious. "Hello?" she answered anxiously. "Catherine M. Miller, good afternoon." The voice belonged to Dr. Michael O'Connell. "Can you come now?" "Yes, of course. Has something happened?" Anxiety grew in her chest. "Yes, but don't worry. Victor has regained consciousness. We are now disconnecting the equipment." "My God, yes, of course, I'll be right there." Catherine began to get ready in a rush. The chances of Victor waking up were practically zero. The only explanation for what had happened could be Ignatius's cleansing. "Valerie," she called out to her daughter. "Get ready quickly. Dad has woken up." "Really?" Her daughter froze in the doorway with her mouth open. "Daughter, what are you standing there for? Hurry up." "Yes, Mommy, of course. Yes, I'm ready. I won't even change." 25 minutes later, they were both in the hospital lobby. The elevator stubbornly refused to go down to the first floor, riding somewhere between the 3rd and 6th. "What is this?" Catherine exclaimed indignantly. "One isn't working, the other is busy. Let's take the stairs." She grabbed Valerie's hand and pulled her up the staircases. Dr. Michael O'Connell was waiting for them near Victor's room. "Hello, ladies?" He smiled gently. "All right now. No panic and unnecessary emotions. Victor has indeed regained consciousness, but he is very weak. the nurse gave him a painkiller. Surprisingly, he said he doesn't feel anything. "Thank you, Dr. Michael O'Connell." Catherine was crying. "Mom, what's wrong?" Valerie stroked her hand. "Does this mean everything is okay?" "Don't rush things," the doctor interrupted her. "We can't explain how this happened, but his condition is still very serious." Catherine and Valerie entered the room. At first glance, nothing had changed. But then the woman noticed that there were almost no tubes on her husband's face. Victor was breathing on his own. Hearing footsteps, the man opened his eyes and, looking closer, smiled weakly. The smile was somehow eerie, but for Catherine, it was the most precious and warm thing. "Vicky!" she rushed to him. "Daddy, hi!" Valerie sobbed. "My girls," Victor whispered hoarsely. "I thought I wouldn't see you again." "Hush, hush, my dear," Catherine cried. "It's better you don't talk yet. Your vocal cords are weak. We came right away, as soon as the doctor called." "But how? My God." "Mommy, calm down, it's okay." Valerie supported her. "Drink some water." For a while they tried to talk, but Victor was weak, and the women were in shock. "Val, I need to tell Mom something important. Leave us for a couple of minutes." "Dad, are you serious?" the girl protested. "We're one family. We can't have secrets." "Okay, I'm kidding, of course. I understand you want to be alone together. I'll go get a chocolate bar from the machine for now." Valerie darted out of the room. As soon as the door closed behind her, Victor squeezed Catherine's hands tightly, painfully. "Victor, be careful, you shouldn't strain yourself." "Kathy, listen to me carefully. We have very little time." Her husband's voice suddenly became more confident and firm. Even the hoarseness almost disappeared. But most of all, Catherine was frightened by his eyes. They seemed darker and shone unnaturally. "Vicky, everything will be all right now." "No, Kathy, don't deceive yourself. Things will be all right, but with Valerie. Liz." "Don't say that," Catherine sobbed. "Kathy, don't interrupt me, please. We have very little time. I don't know how long I'll last. I saw something. I don't know how to explain it. I was in complete darkness, and then a light appeared and some man in a suit. He was pulling me towards him, talking. I can't explain how it was, like a dream. But I know it wasn't a dream. I saw Alana. For some reason, she was tying me up. Vlad was also nearby. They were taking me apart like a construction set. And that man then told me that they were the ones who brought it, to harm Valerie." "Victor, but why? Why all this? Because of the apartment? What about the apartment? What nonsense!" "Listen, I didn't tell you, but you know that our apartment, where we live, came to me from my grandfather. He was nothing to Vlad, but he was Alana's relative. And grandfather wrote a will, leaving everything to me. He had a very bad relationship with Alana, but she couldn't get over the fact that she got nothing. And then I did something foolish. We weren't even acquainted then. I wrote a will in her favor." "Why?" Catherine protested. "It's all long and difficult to explain. I didn't think I would have a family and all that back then. Besides, I love my sister, you know that, even though she's a difficult woman. We agreed then, more as a joke, just so she would calm down and not ruin our relationship. I wrote that in the event of my death, the apartment would go to her. That was almost 14 years ago. Then she got married, and all that was forgotten. I didn't really remember it myself, especially since I had you and Valerie. But then something happened. I don't know what happened to Alana and how she came to the idea that she had to get rid of me. I tried to support her as much as I could anyway. What else did she need? It's hard to believe that because of some square meters she's capable of destroying a loved one. I understand that the apartment has sharply increased in price now. Grandfather was not a poor man. The area was given by the factory. He was a manager after all, and the apartment was appropriate. Sell it now, you could buy a couple in new buildings, and still have money left over. That's probably where her greed kicked in. But it feels like someone put the idea in her head. And Vlad fell under her influence too. He had abilities since childhood. Mom even took him to some remote place to see a witch. Neither Dad nor I took it seriously. But Lana showed interest. Once I caught them making some dolls. Dad burned everything then, got scared, and strictly forbade such obscurantism. He was religious, you know. Well, everything was somehow forgotten. And then Alana suddenly decided it was time to bring Vlad out of the shadows. I don't know what she did to him, how she convinced him. But they started doing all this. I have no other explanation. I understand that he was wandering around some cemeteries. I don't know what he was doing there. And then I saw my sister's face. She looked... I woke up. I know I don't have much time left. And I need to stop their plans in time. That's not all. Now I feel that she will turn on you and Valerie too, to eliminate all competitors. The notary will arrive soon. I will re-register the apartment to you. Otherwise, she has the will, and she'll just kick you out onto the street. I need to secure you both. That man from my vision, he can help. But I don't know where to find him. I know, Catherine replied quietly. What? But how? How can you know him? Victor was surprised. Victor, I went to him. I know it's crazy, but Mom insisted. I was in such despair. You understand? This man, his name is Ignatius. He's a seer. The funny thing is, he's a physicist. I believed him. He described your sister to me and told me all this. You know yourself that I don't believe in all this magic and stuff. I'm a pragmatic person. But Ignatius somehow convinced me. And the fact that you woke up is thanks to him. He was cleansing you. He said right away that there wasn't much to hope for, but... Yes, my girl, there's no saving me now. Now you and Valerie need to take care of yourselves. Meet with this Ignatius. He will tell you what needs to be done. Vicky, I love you so much, Catherine cried. I don't want you to leave. Sweetie, I will always be with you. Now I know that everything doesn't end with death. There are things we don't know about, but I will stay by your side forever. Let it be my soul, not my body. But that's completely unimportant. Victor winced. Dear, are you feeling bad? Catherine was frightened. It's okay, he rasped. Call the doctor. Catherine rushed out of the room in search of medical staff. Dr. Michael O'Connell, seeing her agitated face, immediately rushed into the room. Catherine sat with Valerie on the small sofa in the corridor. Soon the notary arrived. He stayed in Victor's room for quite a while. And when he came out, Catherine was allowed to go in. Victor lay motionless. The nurse had just put in an IV. Seeing Catherine and Valerie, Victor smiled weakly, but said nothing more. A nasty cold rain was drizzling. Catherine, silently swallowing tears, watched as clumps of damp earth fell with a dull thud onto the lid of the varnished dark brown coffin. She herself approached the grave last. Holding Valerie's hand tightly, with semi-paralyzed fingers, she scooped up a handful of earth and threw it down. Valerie did the same. Catherine barely remembered the rest. How the coffin was buried, how she and her daughter were led away, how they were put in a taxi. Alice was grateful to her. Sweetie, Alice said to her, go on, I'll handle everything here myself. Besides, there aren't that many people. I'll come to you later. It's best if you just sleep. You need to get through this somehow. Here, take this. It's a sedative. Try taking the pills and go to sleep. Mom, why weren't Alana and Vlad at the funeral? Are they not in town? Or did something happen? Although, what could happen here if their own brother died? I don't know. Catherine shuddered. She had tried calling Alana, but she didn't answer. Catherine even went to her house, but no one opened the door. She couldn't find Vlad either. It was unclear where they had disappeared to, and if they even knew about Victor's death. I can't get in touch with them. I thought the hospital would inform them, or someone they knew. I can't imagine where they are. Essentially, they are Victor's closest relatives. Even his aunt came, although they hadn't seen each other in about 5 years. But these two aren't here. I don't know, Mom. What happened? This isn't right. And anyway, you and I need to talk about Alana and Vlad later. I have some unpleasant information. I got it from Ignatius, by the way. From Ignatius? Alice's eyes lit up immediately. You went to him? Not just went. All right, I'll tell you everything later. Here's the taxi already. Valerie looks terrible. All right, sweetie, rest. Don't forget to take the pills. I'll come in the evening. I have the keys. Okay, Mommy. Catherine hugged her mother tightly. Alice was bustling in the kitchen when Catherine woke up. She had given her a sedative and sleeping pills, but Catherine herself had slept restlessly. She dreamt of Victor, the funeral, some commotion in the hospital, and for some reason, Victor's grandfather, whom Catherine had never seen but knew it was him. Did you get any sleep? Alice looked at Catherine worriedly. You and Valerie should go somewhere for a while she's on vacation. A change of scenery will help, and it will be easier to get through the grief. You know, we had already accepted all this while Victor was in a coma. But when he regained consciousness, some hope appeared. Now I understand that those half an hour were like a last push, just to talk to us. I'm glad we made it in time. Otherwise, we would have blamed ourselves for the rest of our lives. Mom, I want to tell you everything that happened. Catherine recounted in detail how she had decided to go to the psychic, what he told her, how he appeared to Victor and managed to bring him back to consciousness. See? I told you right away you should go to him. Reliable people recommended him to me, they wouldn't lie. Ignatius helped them a lot in his time. It's a pity, of course, that this didn't happen sooner. As for Victor, but what's done is done now. But his relatives, of course. A nightmare. How could they even decide on something like that? And there's no way to punish them legally. Ignatius said that karma always catches up with a person who does evil. God will punish them, or energy according to the law of equilibrium. As much evil was done, so much will return. But they should be punished by law. Mom, what law? They'll laugh at us, there's no evidence. That's true. You know what I'm afraid of now? Victor said that Alana won't stop at this and will want to harm Valerie and me. I want to consult with Ignatius on how to protect ourselves. Do you think she'll go through with it? In Victor's case, she had a selfish interest. Your apartment. You said he managed to notarize everything and transfer it to you, and annul the old will. She must understand that in the event of your, God forbid, death, she still won't get anything. She's not related to you. Nothing will pass to her by inheritance. And anyway, does she even know that she's not getting anything anymore? Unlikely. Victor didn't have time to tell her. Consider that she most likely doesn't even know about his death. And I think she knows everything perfectly well. Vlad must understand that his rituals worked. Although I have no idea how all this works. But still, even if she knows and is waiting, what do you have to do with it? Her plan was to kick you out. And it's unknown if I interpreted everything correctly. I don't know, Catherine shrugged. I can't just go to her and ask directly. I'll try to find out through Ignatius. The next day, Catherine invited the psychic to her place. Valerie opened the door. Hello? The girl looked at the guest carefully. I imagined you differently. You look like an ordinary person. Come in, Mom is waiting for you. Hello, Valerie. To be honest, I imagined you differently, too. In my mind, an 11-year-old girl is something with bows and dolls. You're behind the times, Valerie smiled slightly. And when was that ever the case? At 11, a personality is already fully formed. By the way, I can already write programs and develop applications easily. Someone even wants to buy one. Wow, Ignatius whistled. A serious young lady. You're far from this, of course. Mathematics is not magic. But I don't believe in this, even though you convinced Mom. I think it's just a coincidence that Dad regained consciousness. You're wrong to think, Valerie, that I know nothing about mathematics. Mom probably didn't tell you, but I used to work as a lead engineer at a nuclear power plant. Physics and mathematics are like my sisters, you could say. No way! The girl was surprised. But how did it happen then that a physicist went into pseudoscience? What hasn't been proven yet cannot be considered false. Especially since I'm not a wizard or sorcerer, but simply come into contact with our earthly information field. How is that not physics? And all my predictions are pure mathematics, based on the probability of events. There's nothing supernatural here. Well, it's up to you whether to believe or not. Now I need to discuss something with your mother. You know, I suppose I'll allow that you're not deceiving us. Especially since you're not asking for money. That's strange to me. Nowadays, no one will even spit for free. Money isn't the main thing, Valerie, however cliché it sounds. My gift wasn't given to me for profit. I studied at university for that. And what was given to me from above, I simply have no right to demand compensation for that. Interesting, Valerie mused. All right, I won't keep you. Go to Mom, she's in the kitchen. Ignatius went in the direction Valerie indicated. Catherine was setting the table. And you came. Here, I prepared a little something. Please help yourself. Please sit down at the table. We'll eat and talk afterward. You can start telling me if it's not difficult for you. I don't like eating in silence, and making small talk, given the circumstances, is awkward. Yes, of course, Catherine smiled. In short, the situation is this. Before he died, Victor told me that he talked to you there, in the astral plane. It's not the astral plane. Don't confuse it, Ignatius corrected her. In your, so to speak, reality. There he saw that Alana intends to harm Valerie and me somehow. I don't know if you're aware of the will or not, but Victor managed to transfer the apartment to me, which Alana is claiming. Is that the apartment? Ignatius nodded towards it. Yes. My husband inherited it from his grandfather, and he foolishly made a will in favor of his sister to smooth over her resentment. Now that will has been annulled. I'm afraid Alana will seek revenge, or try to get rid of us to achieve her goal and become the sole heir. Yes, well, that woman is capable of anything. You did the right thing by telling me. I won't be able to neutralize her completely, especially without personal contact. And she's not working alone. We need to stop Vlad. And as I understand it, they both disappeared somewhere. They weren't even at the funeral. Yes, I have a feeling they're up to something. I know I'm probably just worrying myself, but the sense of danger doesn't leave me. Catherine, I can put a protection on you and your daughter. It will act as a shield against their attacks. Formally, it's like a cocoon of dense energy. You won't feel its presence at all. The only thing is, when I'm setting it, you need to completely clear your mind so I can connect to your energy points and secure everything. There won't be problems with you, but Valerie? She's skeptical about all this. That might interfere. Talk to your daughter. Without her consent, I won't be able to build this protective cocoon. Yes, of course. When can we start? Right now, if you like. Then let me call Valerie. We'll explain everything to her together. I think it will be easier that way. You see, I told her, she reacted. It's hard for her to believe in such things. We'll try to convince her, Ignatius smiled. Valerie, Catherine called out. Come here. What is it? The girl's anxious face appeared in the doorway. Valerie, sit down. We need to discuss something. Her mother called her gently. I'm listening. Valerie sat down on a chair, crossing her arms over her chest. Sweetie, I know what I'm about to say will make you indignant, but as a sign of respect, love for me, and in memory of Dad, please take my words seriously. Okay, I'll try. The girl wrinkled her nose. In short, the situation that happened to Dad is the work of your Aunt Alana. She used magical influence on him, which caused the illness. The reason is trivial. Money, specifically our apartment. Dad once made a will in her favor, so she decided to act radically. She doesn't know yet that he transferred the apartment to us, but Dad warned me before he died that you and I are now in danger. This woman won't stop and might start seeking revenge. Seriously? The girl was horrified. I always hated her, that nasty aunt. And Dad always helped her anyway. I knew it was her doing something. Valerie burst into tears. Catherine hadn't expected such a reaction. Mom, the girl sobbed. So it's all true? And Auntie is a witch? No, dear. Aunt Alana isn't a witch. But your Uncle Vlad has certain abilities, and she took advantage of that. Uncle Vlad, too? But that's impossible. He loved Dad so much, and he's a good person. Valerie, Ignatius intervened. There are people like that. They are genuinely good and don't wish anyone harm. But they are easily susceptible to outside influence. Your uncle is being skillfully manipulated, using his abilities for evil. He acts as if under hypnosis. It's even pointless to blame him. But I would be wary of your aunt. She wants to get rid of us too? Valerie recoiled in horror. It's hard to say for now. I can't judge her intentions. Ignatius shook his head. I'm not all-powerful, and I can't see this from a distance. To understand her plan, I need personal contact with her. I don't want her to come here. She won't, her mother reassured the girl. Both Alana and Vlad have disappeared somewhere. You probably noticed they weren't even at the funeral. Maybe they've already punished themselves and crashed in a car? Valerie, you shouldn't say that, Catherine said sternly. However people are, by wishing someone ill, you bring it upon yourself. Their fate will catch up with them. But for now, we need to make sure they don't harm us. But can anything be done? Valerie became serious. Look what they did to Dad. And Auntie smiled so calmly, knowing he was dying because of her. I can protect you, Ignatius said. I will put a shield on you and your mother that Alana won't be able to penetrate. But you must believe with all your heart. Accept this. Otherwise, nothing will work. Valerie, you said you're interested in programming. Well, what I do with your energy is also a kind of programming. I am rewriting your factory settings. And the protection is like an antivirus. It will catch all your aunt's attacks and either erase them, quarantine them, or send them back. And then, when it's all over, I will remove it. Do you understand me? Uh-huh, the girl nodded. Then I suggest we start right now. Otherwise, we might lose time, which will turn against us. Who knows? Maybe Alana has already started something. Over the next 2 hours, Ignatius performed his manipulations. All Catherine and Valerie had to do was sit and immerse themselves in a meditative state. When everything was completed, the man woke them up. All right, girls, I've finished my work. Now you don't need to be afraid. But as soon as Alana starts showing herself, let me know. Thank you, Ignatius. Catherine smiled at him. I believe you. I sincerely hope this helps. Maybe I should pay you after all? Catherine, you have already paid in full. I haven't eaten such a delicious lunch in years. Ignatius smiled and headed for the exit. After he left, mother and daughter talked for a long time, discussing everything that had happened. A little less than a month had passed since Victor's death. Gradually, Catherine got used to the idea that he was gone. She remembered his words that despite leaving, he would always be near. And that made it easier. Valerie was also slowly recovering. There were still 2 weeks left until the school year began, and the girl was already getting ready for school, browsing shops with her grandmother for new notebooks, and had even managed to meet up with friends with whom communication had been limited in recent months due to her father's illness. That day, Valerie returned from her grandmother's in good spirits. She showed her mother the new tracksuit Alice had bought her. Trying on the new outfit in front of the mirror, the girl twirled, trying to see herself from all sides. Suddenly, she turned pale and clutched her temples. "Valerie, what's wrong?" Catherine became anxious. "Just feeling a bit dizzy," her daughter replied, holding her temples. "It's very stuffy these last hot days, and you put on that suit. Let me pour us some lemonade," her mother suggested. "Take off your beautiful outfit and come to the kitchen. We can sit on the balcony at least. The weather is truly wonderful." Catherine went to the kitchen, took glasses from the cupboard, and a pitcher of lemonade she had made that morning from the refrigerator. She dropped a couple of ice cubes into each glass, poured the drink, and carried everything out to the balcony table. She sat in a chair and relaxed, turning her face to the warm August sun. Summer will be over soon, she thought. Yes, it's been a difficult one for us. And how will we manage without Victor now? Valerie is growing up so fast, my salary won't be enough for us soon. Should she earn money herself with her apps? I've heard that they really pay in this field and even actively involve talented teenagers. But still, for me, it's just a hobby. I need to do something about work. I won't sell this apartment for anything. Everything of Victor's is here. It would be like betraying his memory, even if we have no money at all. Well, Mom won't let us starve, but in my position, I don't have much to hope for. Should I ask for a promotion? Mr. Peterson is retiring just now, and how long has he been training me for his position? But can I handle such responsibility? Who knows? You won't know until you try. Where is Valerie stuck? The lemonade will get warm. "Valerie!" Catherine called out. "Where are you? All the ice has melted already." Her daughter didn't answer. Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. She came off the balcony, remembering how her daughter had turned pale while trying on the suit. Valerie was lying by the mirror, still wearing the suit. Catherine rushed to her daughter and sharply pulled her hand back when she touched her. The girl was unconscious and hot as fire. "My God! Valerie! Valerie! Wake up!" Catherine slapped her daughter's cheeks. She only made rasping sounds. Her mother immediately called an ambulance and ran to the kitchen for a compress. The cold brought the girl back to consciousness a little. She half opened her eyes and mumbled something, but Catherine couldn't make out the words. She dragged the girl to the bed and took off her jacket. Valerie was completely red and drenched in sweat. The ambulance crew arrived quickly. The doctor gave Valerie an injection to lower her fever, and she regained consciousness in a couple of minutes. "Mom," she mumbled, "I'm okay." "Sweetie," Catherine stroked her damp hair. "My God, I was so scared." "Most likely the girl overheated," the doctor frowned. "Shall we go to the hospital?" "No," Valerie whispered. "Just not the hospital." Catherine understood that medical facilities brought up painful associations for her daughter, and simply looked at the doctor questioningly. "You can sign a refusal of hospitalization. I'll prescribe you some medication just in case, if the temperature starts rising again. If it goes higher, call us immediately." "Okay, I understand," Catherine nodded. The temperature rose again, but did not exceed the threshold indicated by the doctor, and Catherine was not in a hurry to call an ambulance yet. Valerie lay in bed, having taken the prescribed pills. Her mother changed her compresses every 10 minutes. "It's all the air conditioning. We sat under it yesterday, my nose is running worse, and look at you, completely laid up. It's nothing. It will pass. I just need to sleep. My head hurts so much, Valerie said softly. It was the same when I had the flu last year. But that was in winter. Don't worry, it's not the flu. You just caught a chill. All the bad stuff is coming out. The medicine will help. The doorbell rang. Who is that so late? Catherine was surprised. It's 9 in the evening. Maybe Grandma? Valerie looked at her mother questioningly. She shouldn't be. She has keys. She wouldn't ring. All right, you lie down. Rest. I'll go see who it is. Catherine left her daughter's bedroom and headed for the front door. She looked through the peephole and recoiled. Alana and Vlad were standing on the other side. After a moment's hesitation, Catherine took a deep breath and opened the door. Catherine! Well, really? We thought no one was home! Alana exclaimed, throwing up her hands. Where were you? Catherine immediately attacked her. Are you even aware that Victor is gone? I've been looking for you for a whole month. Nobody knows anything. Your phones are off. Kathy, I'll explain everything. Alana pushed her aside with her shoulder and walked in. Silent Vlad scurried in after her. The man looked like her shadow. Catherine felt uneasy. She didn't want to let anyone in, but she couldn't resist the woman's pushiness. Alana walked into the living room as if she owned the place, sinking noisily onto the sofa. Vlad stood beside her like a servant, his gaze fixed on the floor. I'll be right back, Catherine's eyes flashed. Valerie isn't feeling well. It seemed to her that Alana snorted with satisfaction upon hearing this. Catherine quickly returned to the bedroom. Valerie, don't get out of bed. Victor's sister and brother are here, she whispered. I'm going to call Ignatius now. I'm afraid to be alone with them, but I'm even more afraid for you, my girl. Lock yourself in from the inside. That woman mustn't see you in such a vulnerable state, in case she takes advantage. Catherine typed a message and sent it to Ignatius, explaining that she had uninvited guests. He immediately replied, telling her not to let them leave and promising to come as soon as possible. Catherine replied affirmatively and left her daughter's room. What, isn't Valerie coming out to say hello? We haven't seen her in a long time, Alana said somewhat ominously. Valerie isn't feeling well, another time, Catherine replied sharply. You'd better explain to me what's going on. Where did you disappear to? We didn't disappear anywhere, Alana laughed. We were at home. Right, Vlad? The man nodded silently. Catherine was taken aback. What do you mean, at home? Then why weren't you answering? Why didn't you come to the funeral? Victor died, your own brother, and you just stayed home? It's our private matter whether to come to the funeral or not. But it's your matter to quickly pack your things and leave this apartment with your sick daughter. There it is. The thought flashed through Catherine's mind. It started. My God, I wish Ignatius would come quickly. I'm scared to be near this woman. What do you mean by that? Catherine pretended to be surprised. Why should I leave my apartment? Because of this. Alana held out a thin folder with some documents. Catherine quickly scanned the papers and calmly placed the folder on the table. Firstly, she began coolly, realizing that this was her moment of triumph. As far as I know, a will comes into legal force 6 months after the death of the testator. So you have no right to live here until you officially become the owner of the apartment. You reacted strangely, Alana tensed. So you're not surprised that I brought the will? And that you're essentially losing your home? All right, let's say you're right legally. It's nothing, I'll wait. Although... But if there was a firstly, there will also be a secondly, Catherine continued just as coolly, ignoring Alana's words. Secondly, this piece of paper hasn't had legal force for over a month. Before coming here and waving it in my face, You should have at least bothered to find out who the official owner of this property is now. What are you talking about? Alana jumped up from the sofa. Why is this will invalid? Victor hasn't been conscious for the last few months, and I checked everything back in June. Thirdly, Catherine cut off her angry tirade. Victor did regain consciousness. If you had been more interested in how he was doing at the hospital, you would have known about it. It was during that time that the notary visited him, and the will was rewritten. So you have no right to be here. Not now, not in 5 months. Catherine stood up from the chair and pointed towards the door. Oh yes, fourthly, she smirked. I know everything. I know that my husband's death is your doing. Yes, I won't be able to prove anything, but I don't need to. Karma will catch up with you without me. Degenerates. You are simply degenerates, to drive your own brother to his grave for the sake of some brick walls. Oh, really? Alana bristled. So that's it. You were right, Vlad. This woman suspected something. It's good we covered our backs. What are you talking about this time? Catherine turned pale. I'm setting my condition. Right now we go to the notary, and you sign a deed of gift to me. Yeah, sure. Just let me tie my shoelaces, Catherine smirked. Well, it's your choice, of course. Alana rolled her eyes. Vlad, go. The man took a bag from some case and reached into it. Almost immediately, loud sounds came from Valerie's room. I'll be right there. Catherine lunged towards the door. Don't rush! The woman grabbed her arm. You won't be able to help her anyway. If you resist, Valerie will just burn up from the inside. You say you know what we're capable of, don't you? My beloved niece is now entirely in Vlad's hands. So come on, get ready, we'll go to the notary. Whether it's a refusal of inheritance, or a power of attorney, or whatever. But you will give me the apartment, understand? Otherwise, you'll lose your daughter. No one will lose anyone! Ignatius's voice was heard. And who are you? Alana glared at him maliciously. This is the one who will make you pay for Dad's death. A completely healthy-looking Valerie peered out from behind Ignatius. What's happening? Vlad, why isn't it working? Alana shrieked. Vlad reached into the bag again, and Valerie immediately let out a prolonged sound. Catherine flinched, but then heard her daughter's laughter. You won't succeed, she shouted at her aunt. You messed with the wrong people. Mom, kick them out. They won't do anything to us anymore. But Catherine was confused. Leave the apartment, or I'll call the police right now. You can explain to them where you got the remains, Ignatius said sternly. What? What remains? Catherine looked at him in confusion. The ones accumulated from cemeteries. Keep in mind, you can run into a criminal charge here. So I'm asking nicely for now. Leave. You'll regret this, Alana hissed, heading for the exit. Vlad obediently scurried after her. You won't have time, Ignatius laughed in her face. Retribution will catch up with you sooner. Do you think you can control people's fates? I've seen how it will end for you. So go. You'll find out everything yourselves soon. When the uninvited guests left the apartment and Catherine locked the door behind them, she demanded an explanation. I arrived almost immediately. Don't ask how I got here so fast. You wouldn't believe me anyway. Ignatius smiled, ruffling Valerie's hair. I was lucky you didn't lock the door. I came in and heard noise from your room. I immediately felt their energy and went to Valerie. The girl didn't fully believe us after all. They managed to partially break through my shield. It's a good thing you called, otherwise there would have been trouble. But I removed everything, and they will never bother you again. But how can I be sure of that? Catherine asked. Alana looked very angry, and she will definitely find a way to get what she wants. She won't have time. Why is that? Catherine frowned. You'll find out everything yourselves from the news tomorrow." Ignatius smiled mysteriously. "And now, I must ask you to excuse me. I need to sleep. I'm going home. I need to recover after such intense work. It was a pleasure meeting you, even under these circumstances. Farewell." Ignatius stood up and left the apartment.